Threat to the American public remains low of a spread of the coronavirus. You have directed this team to take all steps necessary to continue to ensure the health and well-being of the American people. And the people of this country can be confident that under your leadership, we will continue to bring the full resources of the federal government in coordination with our state and local partners to see to the health and well-being and to the effective response to the coronavirus here in the United States of America.
In just the course of the last couple of minutes, you have disputed some of what the officials that are working in your administration behind you have said about the risk of coronavirus and its spread. Do you trust your health officials to give you good information, or do you trust your own instincts more?
I don't think I have. They've said it could be worse, and I've said it could be worse, too. I also think, no, I don't think it's inevitable. I don't think it's inevitable. I think that we're doing a really good job in terms of maintaining borders, in terms of letting people in terms of checking people. And also, that's one of the reasons I'm here today, getting the word out so people they'll know.
Okay. A source familiar with the government's efforts tell NBC News that there is internal tension within the administration on how to contain public concern about the spread of the virus, a rift that dates back to last month's decision to implement travel restrictions and mandatory quarantines. Allies of the president say that he wants to make sure his team is initiating the appropriate responses at the right times without creating mass panic. The report says that Trump has largely hinged his frustration on the Center for Disease Control after they announced an outbreak was all but inevitable. Yet experts of past epidemics claim that Trump's decision to downsize the White House national security staff and eliminate jobs addressing global pandemics is likely to hinder the government's response to the virus. Here is the president's response to a question yesterday about those budget and staff cuts.
Budgets have consistently called for enormous cuts to the CDC, the NIH, and the WHO. You've talked a lot today about how these professionals are excellent, how they're critical and necessary. Does this experience at all give you pause about those?
No, because we can get money and we can increase staff. We know all the people. We know all the good people. It was a question I asked the doctors before. Some of the people we cut, they haven't been used for many, many years. And if we ever need them, we can get them very quickly. And rather than spending the money, and I'm a business person, I don't like having thousands of people around when you don't need them.
Oh, boy, that part concerns me a lot.
We obviously do need them now. We also have, though, Democrats talking about a sizable budget to get this moving. So, Willie, you know, it's interesting that I watched the press conference. First of all, I was very glad he had a press conference.
In the briefing room.
In the briefing room. I thought that was very important. It's something Robert Gibbs said at like noon that he needed to do. The president in the briefing room with his team behind him sends a very clear message that he is on alert. Now, listen, people might say it's because he cares more about the stock market than the coronavirus. I don't really care why he's in there. It's important he's in there. This is what Robert Gibbs said. Once again, today is the necessary time to bring the White House briefing room. Please bring out all the public health experts, walk the nation through the response step by step, what comes next, and what Americans need to do to prepare for it. We need to hear it, please. And that's for the most part what the president did. He brought his team together. He had the experts come up and lay out the possibility. And of course, we're grading on a lower scale. And of course, we had to listen to poor Mike Pence bow and scrape and talk about how great Donald Trump was every 3 seconds. But again, all that aside, the president came out, got the message out. Yes, he was being overly optimistic, but there were several times, I believe, during that press conference where he said, yes, it could get worse. And his health officials said, that's what we need to prepare communities for, and this is what communities need to do. So, you know, I know a lot of people were slamming the president for what he did. I think we're better off this morning because he did what he did than had he not gone out at all.
The unease that was spreading.
I thought, you know, there are a couple of little side barbs that he threw out there. He brought the wall in passing. Yeah. But, you know, he was also asked about India at the very beginning. Hey, how great was your trip to India? Set up perfectly for him. He said, I don't really want to talk about that. Let's talk about the virus. So, yes, grading on the lower scale, grading on the Trump scale, I was very pleased and actually comforted that the President of the United States brought the entire healthcare team out, and they talked to Americans about this very important situation.
The president obviously has earned everyone's skepticism. When he first starts talking, he's told so many lies. He's protected his own interests many times for the interest of the country, but he did what presidents traditionally do in that moment, which is not to get into the nitty-gritty of the science of the whole thing, but to try to ease the country as a sense of panic begins to set in around the world. He said the risk is very low. Then those CDC officials came forward and said, actually, no, we don't know where this is headed, Richard Haass. We have to be careful when we say the risk is low. So he did his job. The scientists did theirs. There's always the question, though. We've heard the reporting that the president didn't want people to go out and talk about how serious it was. It might hurt the markets, which could have eventually hurt his prospects for re-election. That's always there. But how do you evaluate his performance yesterday first, but more importantly, where this is headed with coronavirus? The
honest answer is we don't know what the risk is. The numbers of those who have the disease are probably far larger than is publicly known, in part because lots of people are asymptomatic. The good news from that is the fatality rate is probably lower than the published rate. I think he made one important move, was establishing one person in charge of this. You need a whole of government effort. You need one person who's senior to the cabinet, who can coordinate the cabinet, who can link the foreign and domestic aspects of that. So I actually think appointing the vice president was the right thing to do. But it was a sobering press conference in the sense that while the president was leaning towards the let's not overreact, the danger is obviously underreaction. And I thought what Dr. Fauci said was quite sobering. At best, it's a year to a year and a half before we have a vaccine. And in the meantime, not just this first wave, but there could be other waves of the virus. And by the time we have the vaccine, the waves of the virus might be different than the vaccine that's created would be applicable to. So this is one of those things that's going to play out over a lot of time. It's a serious virus. It's beginning to show up in the United States and around the world. I think we've got to work from the assumption it's going to spread. And I thought what Fauci said was right. For the time being, this is a public health challenge.
Well, Mika and I heard from several people yesterday who run corporations, large corporations. They're sending the message out today to all of their employees. We are severely limiting travel. Get on planes only if you have to do that. That's going to be multiplied many times over. And it is going to have quite an impact on the economy, but at the same time will hopefully limit the spread of this virus. But you're right. We don't know.
I think the test for this presidency is going to be, and it's something we've talked a lot about on this show, in terms of voids in staffing at the State Department. We've often talked about, first of all, what exactly that looks like when you have someone who's basically purging or not filling jobs, basically weakening that institution and, you know, leaning toward the president's tendencies, which is to be a strong man. If you don't have people underneath you and people questioning you and you don't have jobs filled, there is a weakness. If he has gotten rid of too many scientists, if he has gotten rid of too many people at the Centers for Disease Control, if we don't have the right people in place, what he said, the last soundbite we ran, you know, we'll just get them back. That's not so easy. And it will be very interesting to see exactly who they can gather together beyond who they put on stage yesterday to really deal with this.
You know, if I'm going in and I have to have brain surgery, I don't care whether somebody likes Morning Joe or not. I want the best brain surgeon. The purge that Republicans are talking about Donald Trump going throughout the government right now, John, that we've really heard about over the past week, that purge looks at an official and says, not, is that official the person who will best make sure that the people in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Florida, and the rest of the country do not die from this virus? Or is this a person who's going to be like Mike Pence and kowtow to the president every 3 sentences? And when this, I'm hoping this is a wake-up call for the administration and for the president, that in a lot of positions, loyal to him doesn't have to come first, especially if it's about science, if it's about infectious disease, if it's about safety.
Yeah.